is to be called. China is a weak country. The Chinese bluff was called by America when Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan and flew back, and the weak Xi Jinping, the very weak Xi, could do nothing. The weak Xi, down with massive civil unrest in China for his disastrous zero-COVID policy. The weak Xi who locks up Chinese in their own homes. The weak Xi with the Chinese economy on a total downslides needs to distract attention. So provoking India in Galwan, in Doklam, in Tawang provides him a spectacle to take the mind off of the furious Chinese from his own internal mess. We need to be doubly careful because the Vadra Congress, which has a secret arrangement with the Chinese Communist Party, will make an issue of this politically. Mark my words, the conspiratorial Congress will join hands with the Chinese to undermine our own sovereignty, our own government, and play to the Chinese advantage. That's what the conspiratorial Congress will do. Remember and never forget, viewers, that Sonia Gandhi was there signing an agreement with Xi, with the Chinese Communist Party, so she cannot be trusted. And neither can her party, the Conspiratorial Congress. The Prime Minister is handling a tough situation here, and Indians need to rally behind him. A message needs to go that we know that the Chinese have done a deal with the Conspiratorial Congress, and that the entire nation stands with the Indian army and the Indian government. Weak Xi must get the message. The Conspiratorial Congress must get the message. Sonia Gandhi must get the message, ladies and gentlemen. That is debate number 1 tonight. We pushed them back in Tawang, but this is after Doklam, this is after Galwan. We need to do more. Debate number 2 this evening. Congress leaders putting out an open murder threat and a murder call for the Prime Minister. And debate number 3 this evening. Rocket-propelled guns being fired all over Punjab. The Aam Aadmi Party has totally lost control. Man, wake up is debate number 3, and here are the headlines this Monday evening on the Debate Tonight. Doklam, Galwan and now Tawang, China provokes India in Arunachal Pradesh. China came with 5 platoons, but the Indian army stood ground resolutely and pushed them back. The PLA wanted to scale a 17,000 feet strategic peak. Our forces sent them packing after a hand-to-hand brawl. Senior leader from the conspiratorial Vadra Congress gives an open call to assassinate the Prime Minister, now faces an FIR. Second RPG attack in 7 months in Punjab on the police personnel. Bhagwat Mann again caught napping on internal security, a total failure there. And after BJP ruled states make UCC move, private members bill introduced in Parliament is the BJP testing the waters ahead of 2024. And ladies and gentlemen, we knew that China would attempt a misadventure with India. Like in Galwan, they attempted to provoke India, this time in Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. Like in Galwan, their attempts to capture a peak have failed. They are failures. The conspiratorial Congress will try to use the issue. But like in Galwan, our brave soldiers have given them a bloody nose. Here is what happened, the story we've been breaking for the last couple of hours, and then we debate.
907 days after the Galwan clashes, now there are reports of another clash.
This was clearly an attempt by the Chinese to capture a vantage position in the Zhangse area where Indian troops traditionally have better positions. And so a patrol party, which according to sources were about 3 to 5 battalions strong, which is about 300 to 500 troops of the Chinese PLA, came across the LAC and tried to capture that peak at about 17,000 feet. But the alert Indian Army soldiers intercepted them, held them back, and the fisticuffs led to a clash which has resulted in injuries to some as of now.
The Indian Army pushed the Chinese PLA back firmly and resolutely.
that the PLA soldiers were making an attempt to get access to the top of 17,000 feet peak. Now, Major, you would understand the geography of the area much better. So it does appear that what we saw in Pangangso also, it appears in this particular case an attempt was basically made to get a better control. I'm given to understand was completely thwarted. The area is completely under snow. So the entire movement perhaps was far more difficult.
The clashes come 24 days after Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping exchanged courtesies at G20. They come 47 days after Xi Jinping took on a third term. And this comes days after India-US exercise in Oli. And it comes at a time when within China, Xi Jinping is facing massive protests. Sources indicate the number of Chinese soldiers injured is more than that of Indian soldiers. And the Chinese must remember India's warning.
भारत माता के दुश्मनों ने आपकी फायर हुई देखी है और आपकी फ्यूरी भी.
Let's debate.
From the Indian side, I want to go to General Bakshi first. I'm welcoming Tenzin Sundu, well-known Tibetan writer activist, Gaurav Arya, and from the Chinese view, Andrew K.P. Leung from Hong Kong and Victor Gao from Beijing. General Bakshi, now they've been pushed back. We hear it was a hand-to-hand brawl, but there are about 1,000 troops from either side. When there are 1,000 troops from either side and they are armed, things can go either way, right? It need not remain a hand-to-hand brawl. So it's really, you know, things are on edge then, aren't they? Louder.
Arnab, may I add to what you have said? Why should it remain confined to a hand-to-hand brawl? Is this a Lathi force? This is the regular Indian army. Why should it be so constrained? Let me give you a piece of history. In 1967, in Sikkim, we had a general called General Sagat Singh. When he took charge, these hand-to-hand clashes, boxing matches, wrestling matches between us and the Chinese were regular routine. The first order he passed on assuming command was, the next guy, the next soldier who engages with the Chinese in wrestling matches or kushti or taekwondo or whatever, I'll court-martial him. You have been given weapons, you have been given ammunition to defend your country, fight like soldiers, use them for good effect. I cannot understand this nonsense. You know, it has been going on now. We suffered it in Ladakh for 2.5 years plus. Now we see an escalation and we see an extension. Why is the escalation there, Arnab? You put the finger on the spot. You told, you have just shared with us that when Nancy Pelosi came to Taiwan, you know, Xi Jinping made a lot of noises. He, you know, spewed brimstone and lava. And what did he do? He fired a few missiles. He sent 5 boats to do a kind of a mock blockade, and that was the end of it. Because he knew if he did anything further, they would be held to pay. This is low cost, Arnab. A few heads broken. You know, you can always deny because it's hand-to-hand fight.
It's typical Chinese, you know,
then
tactic,
you say,
General
I mean, the Chinese media says 100, you say just 5, then you get them to your parliament, you make a big tamasha, you need a diversion now because of COVID, so you stage this tamasha?
Yeah, the way I look at it, if I may.
Let's give it to them.
Yeah, I agree with you. See, but let me give my analysis to the viewers, and I'll get in Victor Gao on the right and maybe Gaurav on the left. You see, China is a mess. Everyone knows it, Gaurav. It's a mess. I mean, what a mess. The definition of a mess is China. The economy is in a tailspin. They're in an effective recession. Xi can't control things. You know what they are doing. There is so much civil unrest. Despite attempts to control the media, the news goes out. Gaurav, you've seen, he's locking up people, welding the doors of their homes. He's out of control, this guy. This typical, Gaurav, what I think, you know, Victor, what you're doing is, what the Chinese are doing is typical childish stomping around tactics by the Chinese. I mean, you're a joke. There was an India-America exercise, Yudh Abhyas, between November 17th to December 2nd. You can do nothing about it. You stomp around, you complain a little bit, and then you say, okay, let's try and do a little bit of drama here and there. You're not ready for more. You need to understand today, Victor, you're a weak country with a collapsing economy. And you need to understand this, that you're not ready for more. Therefore, it is better you don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Yes, I do understand that the weak Xi needs to give some kind of a distraction to all of the mess that's handing on. Look at the disgraceful manner in which he treated Hu Jintao at the Communist Party meeting. You know, look at the disgraceful way in which the insecure and weak Xi was trying to stomp around. He can't even control his own party. But didn't you learn a lesson from Galwan? Didn't you learn a lesson from Doklam? I mean, what are you trying to do? We have the dominant positions there. In this particular area, in the Taiwan sector, the peaks are in our control, as Gaurav will tell you. Now, if you want to get in there, you're really going to have to be ready for more than a skirmish, right, Gaurav? If you really want to take on the Indian army, there's not going to be hand-to-hand combat. It'll be serious stuff, right, Gaurav? My point is, there's no provocation happening here, right? You may have your own problems, deal with your mess. You're a mess. Right, Victor? What are you? You're a mess. But deal with your own mess. Do you get the message? Yes.
Hello.
Deal with your own mess, Victor, and don't take on more than you can chew. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, China's economic growth for 2022 will be the highest among all the large economies in the world. So don't be surprised if, for example, the year-end number will be very interesting to be about 4%.
I'm talking about today. I'm talking about today. You are a mess economically today. Deal with it.
Beijing is quiet. There is no protest. If you want to see protests, go to Britain. Go to the United States. Go to many other Western countries.
No, we don't have to.
In China,
we'll go in your back door.
Prevails. There is no.
You are a mess. You need to handle your own mess.
Number two, allow me to say about the border. We share a very long border in Arunachal Pradesh. You know for sure, you probably know better than I do, that there is a line of actual control, and the Chinese military are on the northern side of the line of actual control, and the Indian troops are on the southern side of the line of actual control. If you know geography by any stretch of the imagination, you know the Chinese side actually has higher altitude, and the Indian side has lower altitude. So when you talk about the peaks, where are the peaks? The peaks are on the Chinese side of the line of actual control. Don't get the geography wrong, otherwise you get everything completely in the mess. It will be in a real mess. Secondly, for the Chinese army and the Indian army not to fight with real bullets, with rifles, cannons, etc. Both our nations are blessed with this situation. We even do not want to see the fist fight. We want to see the two militaries having a chat, good neighborly relations, and then, to the extent possible, embrace each other and share some anti-cold gear, for example, so that none of them will be frozen to death. In the border region, it is in deep freeze. So why should we have any conflict in the deep freeze along the China-Indian border?
Can I respond to you, and then Gaurav wants to say something to you, Victor?
Thank you.
Can I respond to you, and then Gaurav wants to say something to you, Victor? Can I say to you first, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll tell you one thing. Victor, those who forget recent history will be forced to go through it again. I know geography very well, but you don't know history, and your short-term memory is very bad, Victor. Did you forget Operation Juniper, in which the Indian Army formed a human wall, preventing the PLA from constructing a road in the Doklam area, stopping you from accessing Indian territory? Did you forget a 2-month deadlock with the Narendra Modi government looking you back and forcing you to push back? Do you know who you are dealing with? Never forget the might of India. We preemptively occupied the Heights in Finger for along Pangong Tso. We are strategically solid, militarily very strong, democratically inclined, but we can use force when necessary. We occupied Siachen, and Gaurav will tell you to stop your ambitions of linking the Shaksam Valley to POK. You cannot surround India. You cannot handle India. Okay? And 1987 Sumdorong Cho standoff, who had to relent, Gaurav? Remind Victor, drill it in Victor's mind tonight that China has had to relent. Now, I'll tell you, you are some kind of a tiger, Victor. I must concede. But having said that, you must always remember, wake up every morning and go to sleep every night, realizing that the whole world knows that you are a paper tiger. Never forget that. And you are a mess. You know what? Do you think I feel good? Do you think you feel good? Do you think you feel good? Your fellow citizens are being locked up in their homes. You have a zero COVID policy. You cannot handle your mess. Don't try to divert whatever's going on in China. Don't you dare by trying to do some tamasha in Tawang. I hope that is clear to you. Now Gaurav will respond to you much stronger than I have. Gaurav, over to you. Let it be a clear conversation tonight.
Give me a chance to talk.
Right. I will, but we are good at hitting back.
So, Victor, please allow me. Arnab, typically what Victor has said is, so like the Chinese, it's typical two-faced doublespeak. You see? So their soldiers try to cross the line of actual control. They're beaten back. They try to occupy a 17,000 feet feature. And here's Victor on our national television talking about peace and how the soldiers should chat, possibly over a cup of green Chinese tea. Now, I want to tell Victor that, Victor, you have got your geography wrong. If you think that China is in a dominating position all throughout the 3,500-kilometer line of actual control, sir, you're sadly mistaken. I don't think you've been to the line of actual control. I, on the other hand, have been posted there, sir. So I can tell you, where I was present, we were at the dominating heights. We were at 17,000, from 14,000 to 17,000, from Shipkila to Lukma 1 to Lukma 2. Our entire company, I was in charge of Bravo Company, I was Bravo Company commander, we were overlooking the Chinese. Our entire battalion, our brigade, our division were overlooking the Chinese. Yes, there are some features on which the Chinese are overlooking us. I will concede that. Number two, we did not go inside China. You attempted to come inside India. Of course, there will be a response from the Indian Army. You can't talk about peace in the television studios. Xi Jinping cannot talk about peace in Beijing and then do something exactly the opposite along the line of actual control with the Indian Army. This is intolerable. And as far as this, General Sagat Singh, I'll tell you the story of General Sagat Singh. We fought a war with you in 1962 and we suffered grievously in that war. But in 1967, it was Lieutenant General Sagat Singh who opened up artillery and he ensured that Chinese soldiers were massacred. Absolutely. And the Chinese ran away from Nathula. What could you do when Nancy Pelosi landed her plane in Taiwan? You could not do anything, sir. Your editorials of your newspapers, sir, please give me 1 minute, sir. Please give me 1 minute. Your Global Times was threatening. All your newspapers and social media handles were threatening. We'll shoot out Nancy Pelosi's plane out of the sky. We'll invade. What did you do? Zilch, zero. That is the way to confront China.
Something about Nancy Pelosi. I'll be very quick. You know, Nancy Pelosi made an illicit visit to Taiwan against the wishes of President Biden of the United States, against the expressed wishes of the Pentagon of the United States. She went there anyway. Immediately after she left, do you know what happened? China completely disregarded what Taiwan local authorities said was the middle line in the Taiwan Strait. Right now,
sir, you had no option
in the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan claims
you-
that it has
You have no option but to disregard.
China
What can you
said
do?
there is no territorial sea as far as Taiwan is concerned.
Victor.
All territorial sea is
Victor.
Chinese
Victor.
territorial sea.
Victor, you're not making
Victor,
sense.
This
we'll open
is
it
the
up.
result.
Victor, you're
One
not
minute,
making sense. I'm sorry.
Victor.
Illicit visit to
Victor,
Taiwan.
Victor, I'll tell you. Victor, see, Victor. Tenzin wants to say something to you. Tenzin is a very respected Tibetan activist. He has strong views on China. What would you like to say, Tenzin, to our Chinese guest this evening?
Mr. Victor Gao,
Thank you.
what you got wrong now is not only geography but also history. China has invaded Tibet and China is sitting in our country, Tibet, for 70 years. And what you call China on India border, it is Chinese who are occupying force. And you got it completely wrong. The land you are talking about is Tibet, not China. You had never had any border with India. If there is any border in the Himalayas, it's between Tibet and India. And today, Tibetan
allow me to make
refugees
one
are
point.
standing with Indian army to fight China. And we have not only responded to you in Galwan Valley, even today we are standing together with Indian army and giving the Chinese a bloody nose. You will ever be defeated in the Himalayas. Today we are standing
Allow
together.
me to make
In
a
this,
point.
Xi Jinping is trying to achieve two things. One, Xi Jinping is doing this as a diversionary act because he's failing in China. His own people want CCP to be completely thrashed out of China. His own Chinese people want Xi Jinping to be thrown out of his own gateway of heavenly peace. It is China that is the occupying force. Arnab, I know only one Chinese phrase. I want to say this to Mr. Gao. The only Chinese phrase that I know is 你是小偷, which means you are a thief, you are a robber, and
Allow
that's who
me
you
to make a
are.
point. Allow me to make a point. We are living
I
in
have
a
made
world
my
of
statement.
realism and
You are,
pragmatism.
China is an
Name me
occupying
any country
expansionist
which recognize-
country. Prime Minister
Listen.
of India has said that China is
Listen,
an
you need to
expansionist
have-
policy, and
you
that's
need
what
to
you're
have
trying to
ears
achieve.
in addition to your
You
mouth.
think that just because
Where
you
is
can
your ear?
occupy
Where are your
Tibet
ears?
today, you can do something like that to India. No, India
Where
will
are
give
your
you a
ears?
fitting reply, and you can never do this on the Himalayan border.
Where are your
today,
ears?
Tibetans and Indians
you
are
have
standing
ears?
together. We will not only protect Tibet's independence,
Do
we
you
will
have
protect
ears?
India's security. And it's China who
you
will
have
suffer at
ears?
the end. You will have to
Hello,
go back.
sir. Do you have ears?
With your heads bent,
Victor.
and
One
you will
word.
have to
Give me
go back
one
into
Victor,
shame.
Victor, may I
Give
come
me
in, please? One minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. Victor Gao
We
says
are
from
living in a
Beijing
world
tonight.
of realism and pragmatism.
No. Victor Gao
Name
says-
me any country in the world which
Victor-
recognizes Tibet as a sovereign country. No. Where you are talking about in India, India recognizes Tibet as part of China.
Not true. In
So,
India,
if you
there is
really
something
want to
called
turn
Indo-Tibetan
Tibet-
border police.
If you
This
really
means
want to
India
turn Tibet
recognizes
into a
Tibet
sovereign
as a
country,
border.
go to Mars.
Indo-Tibetan border police.
Go out of the solar
ITBP.
system.
This shows that
You will
India
never
recognizes
achieve
Tibet
what you
is
dream
India
about.
border, not China.
Tibet
there's
will
no,
always
there's no
be
Sino-China
part of
border.
China.
It is Indo-Tibetan
Period.
border police.
I hope you will have ears.
I want to ask you, Victor, if I may. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
please.
Thank you so much. Victor says, Madhav, he says to Tenzin, do you have ears? I say to Victor, do you have eyes? Or do you
I
not
have
see?
eyes plus my spectacles.
Yeah, may I ask you, may I complete? I don't think so. Because did you see the
Please.
pictures of how innocent Chinese residents in housing complexes were being beaten up because they questioned the requisition of the building on COVID rules? Did you see how they were beaten up? My God, you know, it's terrible. Did you
Allow me
also
one
see, did you see,
sentence. Allow me
one
one
second,
sentence.
1 second, don't get the heebie-jeebies post the Anandman Square. Did you see how people in the masses hit the street and were raising slogans against the weak Xi Jinping, and the fact that despite all your attempts to curb these pictures from going out, you could not distract from
Allow
your
me
failed
one
lockdown?
sentence.
Did you see them, or are you blind? Or are you pretending
Allow
to be
me one
blind?
sentence.
Did you see how in the Foxconn iPhone factory people were being beaten up for protesting the COVID policy? Did you raise your voice? Do you have eyes? Do you have a voice? Did you raise your
Okay,
voice
give me
and
1
say, weak
second.
Xi? don't do this to the Chinese people. Did you say to him? Will you say tonight? You're sitting in Beijing. I know he'll pick you up if you say that. But say tonight, because you're on a channel in a democracy, right? It's an Indian channel. Say to Weak Xi, Weak Xi, stop beating up my people. And Weak Xi, please, Weak Xi, say to Weak Xi, tell Weak Xi how many Chinese soldiers got injured in Tawang. Release the official estimates.
Give me 1 minute.
No, tell Weak Xi how many Chinese soldiers got injured in Tawang.
Give me 1 minute.
How many Chinese soldiers got injured in Tawang?
It has
Victor.
been a curse on all mankind, all countries. India is not spared. China has the highest success rate. The death rate in China is minimum.
How many
The
Chinese
infection rate in
soldiers got
China is
injured in
minimum.
Tawang? Gaurav is not
Chinese
answering.
policy
GD Bakshi.
is for protecting
Madhav
the
Nalapati is
people.
not answering the question.
He cannot answer, Arnab. He cannot answer.
He's dodging my
What is
question.
your
He'll be
question?
picked up.
There is no leader as strong
How
as
many
President
Chinese
Xi Jinping
soldiers
in the
were
world.
injured in Tawang?
In Taiwan, the Chinese occupy the higher ground.
How
The
many
Indian
Chinese soldiers were
are in
injured on the
lower
9th
ground.
of December?
You talk
Tell
about
me.
capturing peaks.
Madhav, you
get
hear he
your
runs away
geography
tonight. He
wrong.
doesn't answer the question. Did you see he's avoiding the
Geography
question?
wrong.
Arnab, if I may, the first point is that there was the Kailash Heights. India withdrew on the understanding that the Chinese would basically withdraw from a very wide area of territory. They did not do that. Now, I just want to ask Victor. Victor is a rational person. Have you checked all the fortifications that the Chinese have built on the land that they are occupying on the northern line? Have you checked the weapons that they have brought in? Have you checked the kind of aircraft, the kind of missile systems that they have brought in? Have you checked the number of troops and the kind of troops that they have brought in? And can you tell me that these are all defensive troops? These are all troops who want to sit down and have a hot cup of tea or some soup with the other side. These are offensive weapons, offensive troops, offensive fortifications. They're not there for peace. They're there as a preparation for war. So, Victor, please go to those areas, check out what I'm saying about all these weapons, missiles, aircraft, troops, and then tell me, are they defensive or offensive? And if they're offensive, which country are they offensive against? Bangladesh,
Superb.
Pakistan, Sri
Allow
Lanka?
me to
You tell me.
respond. Allow me to respond. Thank you for calling me a rational person. I give great premium to my reason and rationality. Secondly, for the China-Indian territorial dispute, which does exist, for India to bring in the United States is completely berserk. It's completely insane, because you are not going to solve the problem. You are going to complicate the problem. If you want to see a war breaking out involving China, India, and the United States, be prepared for Armageddon. If you have your reason and your sanity, then deal with the territorial dispute in peace, in sanity, through diplomacy. That's the only way out. If you think bringing the United States to the China-Indian border will solve the territorial dispute, you are completely out of
General
mind.
Bakshi, I want to bring in General Bakshi with us. No, it's clear here now, General Bakshi. It's becoming clear to me. See, you guys are so insecure. I mean, yeah, it's a joke. Look at your country, man. Andrew, look at this. Why are you bringing the Americans in? Oh, please don't get the Americans in. We get scared. Of course you'll be scared. You're scared of the Indians. But you tell me right now, I demand today, General Bakshi, that you ask Andrew to tell the Chinese government, the PLA, to release official figures of how many Chinese got injured in Tawang. First, answer my question.
Absolutely.
How many of your soldiers were sent back with a bloody nose?
Arnab, we are still waiting for accurate figures of the Galwan clash from the Chinese side. The Chinese media counted 100 dead. The Russians and the American in electronic warfare sources counted more than 30. The Chinese have today come out with 5. So I have absolute no credence for whatever figures he will come out with. Firstly, he won't come out with any figure. But let me tell Andrew some very basic facts. Andrew, we tried our damnedest to resolve this peacefully. Andrews, when we captured the Kailash Heights, we gave them back to you as a gesture of goodwill so that you would get the message. You have your hands tied with Taiwan. We know you are
COVID,
not keen
economy.
to open a second front. No sane person would like to do that. Please, let me finish. Let me finish. No sane person would like to do that. We gave you all the allowances. What do we find? After 2.5 years of this business in Ladakh, now you open up a new front in Arunachal Pradesh. The same thing over and over again. We are getting the disturbing feeling, Andrews, that because you were humiliated by the Americans, and by the way, we don't need the Americans. The Indians are tough enough to take care of their country and more. All right? We are tough enough to take care of it. Don't invoke the Americans to us. We are enough to take care of you. Let me make that very plain. If push comes to shove, we are more than adequate to take care of you. We don't look over our shoulder to anybody else. The other thing that I want to tell you is, just because you got the worst of the bargain in Taiwan in the Nancy Pelosi visit,
That's
that
your
doesn't
problem.
mean you pick on a country you feel is reasonable. That you pick on a country you feel is being reasonable, that will be highly counterproductive. It will be highly counterproductive. Because,
General, allow me to make a point.
Opinion in this country is getting inflamed.
No, I will allow you
People
to
are
make a
not
point
now,
after. Jal
going
Bakshi,
to
1 minute.
accept this taekwondo, this karate, and all this.
No,
business.
doesn't matter.
Armies are
You see,
supposed
these
to
people,
fight. If you are so keen for a fight,
Chinese people,
you will get one.
I'll tell you one thing. The Chinese are gifted in the art of war. Let me tell you, I give you a compliment. But, Madhav, only in books. They cannot fight a war. These people read Sun Tzu, and Gaurav, they start believing they can fight a war. You can take your books. Your books will not help you, sir, when you're in a battle. You have to get beaten, you have to fight. And do we know how to fight you and give you a bloody nose? Now you tell me, Andrew, we have said that 6 Indian soldiers were injured and were airlifted to Guwahati, are undergoing treatment. They'll be fine back to fight you in a couple of days. Andrew, without any sense of shame or embarrassment, how many Chinese got injured? Will the People's Daily put out a tweet? Or will, like the Global Times, first time they said, nobody got injured in Galwan? You know what you said? Nobody got injured in Galwan. Then you said, we don't want to release casualties. Then you said, we don't want to release casualties because we don't want an escalation. And then later you said that there are 5 soldiers who actually died and we gave them honorary titles, including a colonel. And I know that is not even 5% of the total number. So tell us tonight, Andrew, since you're a very well-informed man, people in China would love to know how many Chinese got badly thrashed in Tawang on the 9th. What is your information? What is your information, Andrew?
Well, if I may respond to this a non-debate, I would call, because there's no point dragging in issues like Taiwan, Tibet into a border dispute between China and India. And I think both leaders on both countries have given clear instructions that these conflicts should be de-escalated. Because the line of actual control has not been very clearly defined on both sides, and this has caused numerous kind of conflict that needs to be de-escalated.
You're not interested in de-escalation. Andrew, you are not interested in de-escalation. Andrew, you are not. You are not interested in de-escalation.
How many people died in India?
You didn't. You are not interested in de-escalation, Andrew.
The 5 million people died in India.
Andrew, you are not interested in de-escalation. What were your PLA troops doing there? Did they come for a picnic? Did they come to Tawang for a picnic, 35 kilometers? Did they come to Yangtze for a picnic? Why were they there? Ask Ask Madhav Nalapat, he knows. We'd like peace with you, but is this the way to fight for peace? Madhav, I don't understand. He says de-escalation. Was he there for a picnic?
Look, Arnab, Andrew is absolutely correct in saying that the line of actual control has not been identified by both sides. Yes, there is one side that for all these decades has held up identifying the line of actual control. And that side is China. They're doing it essentially to add some strength to the Pakistan army with which they are in cahoots and to which they are supplying a huge amount of equipment, including, for example, if you go to Fatehjung, you will see Chinese technicians there in the nuclear plants. You will see Chinese technicians everywhere in Pakistan. You will see Chinese technicians in, illegally occupied Indian territory in Kashmir. Now, all this is considered to okay. It's perfectly kosher because China is doing it. So whatever China does is fine. Whatever anybody else does is not fine. Arnab, I have been saying for quite some time, there is an X factor that we must understand. The X factor is the Xi Jinping factor. Xi Jinping has, from almost the first year of his reign, basically put the military front and center, put the so-called conquest of territories front and center, and he makes no secret of it. He does not hide it. He has given maps in which he shows numerous territories that are not Chinese as Chinese, and these are distributed at international conferences. So this X factor is what I said. The point is, with China, only deterrence works. A strong deterrence will work.
Exactly.
But there is no amount of strong diplomacy that will work with China.
Madhav, having said that, Victor, let me ask you a question.
I'm here.
Yeah. So, will this, you got beaten back, you're still going to give me an answer as to how many Chinese got injured in Tawang. When you get the information, you must tweet it. But till then, tell me, will Skoda come back? We believe that that Skoda, which is part of Volkswagen, Czech car maker, is leaving China. Will they come back because of this drama? Apple doesn't want to manufacture there. We got a huge manufacturing base happening for Apple iPhones in India because manufacturing is shifting to India. Will Apple go back from India to China? They won't. You see, your manufacturing index has fallen to its lowest reading. You're a mess. You handle that. We wish you luck. We wish you luck, Victor. Victor, listen, your economic activity is at a standstill. You cannot afford a battle. If you want to come clean, Then if you want to come clean, focus on the economy. Let's grow. It's a great opportunity economically, right, in the world, right? Let's grab the opportunities. Let's stop playing these games here, because if you try anymore, you'll be pushed back harder. Please. And by the way, how many Chinese got injured on the 9th in Tawang, please?
Let me give you the real numbers. The FDI into China broke the record for this year. It will be the highest FDI in China. It will be higher.
I don't know who's giving you numbers. I don't know who's giving you numbers, Victor. Victor, I have to fight you now. I didn't want to fight you, but I'll fight you now. Because the fact is, you're lying. I don't know who's giving you information. Maybe People's Daily. Maybe People's Daily is your source of information. I'll tell you. I don't know.
Major German companies are making huge investments.
I'll give you one fact. God of C, watch this. Watch his argument evaporate. My information is that new lending by Chinese banks has crashed in November because of your COVID outbreaks and because of the government pushback to the lockdowns. Manufacturing units are leaving your country. Your factory and services contracted in November. Your economic activity is down to a standstill, right? You do not understand what's happening in Guangzhou, what's happening in Beijing. What's happening in Beijing? How many neighborhood lockdowns are there? How many times have you been locked in your house, tell me? How many times have you, Victor, been locked in your house? Have you been locked up in your house or not, Victor?
Apparently is not most up to date. Almost all the lockdown measures have been completely uplifted. China's anti-COVID policy has resulted in the lowest number of deaths.
Anyway,
if we compare China's number with India or with the United States, You will agree
you don't
with
have
me.
a media.
United
You
States
don't.
lost
Okay,
another 1
Gaurav,
million people,
Gaurav.
God forbid. And China's numbers.
Gaurav's countering. Gaurav's
direct-
bandwidth low. Let's fix that. Gaurav is responding right now to Victor on the debate.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to tell Victor one thing, Arnab, very simply. You know, he keeps on saying COVID cases in China. That is because the Chinese people are lying all throughout. Their authorities are lying. They have been traditionally lying and hiding their figures. Like they did not tell you how many Chinese died in Galwan, they will not tell you how many Chinese died in the COVID. We are a democracy. We have to give out figures. America is a democracy. America has to give out figures. China is an authoritarian regime.
And more importantly, Gaurav, I think the message that needs to go to the Chinese, General Bakshi and Tenzin, I want to bring you in. I think one thing we want to tell you something tonight, and General Bakshi can put it well. Let me tell you, the entire country, the nation, India, one of the largest economies in the world with one of the most powerful ground and air and naval forces in the world, right? The whole country is resolutely behind Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You need to get that. Do you get that message? Unlike in your country when people want to kick out Xi, the whole country is together. General Bakshi sent him a message here about the mood in the country under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the way we look at these skirmishes. I think that message, that the overall message General Bakshi can give you well. General Bakshi, please convey it to the Chinese.
Absolutely, absolutely, Arnab. This country is sick and tired of being reasonable, trying to make people respond in a reasonable way. 2.5 years we lumped it in, Ladakh. Then we thought at least there is a pretense of trying to seek a resolution. We have gone ahead with it. We are told there is no escalation. In my book, escalation is defined as vertical or horizontal. What you have just done by spreading the conflict from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh is called horizontal escalation. Please, this country is now getting sick and tired, and I don't think it will be very possible for this government to restrain the people of this country from getting outraged. Outraged. I think we've tried to accommodate you as far as we could go. You gave Pakistan nuclear weapons, nuclear designs. You gave them nuclear missiles. You armed them to the teeth. If we do that to the Taiwanese, how would you react? If we sold arms to Taiwan, if we gave nuclear weapon designs to Taiwan, how would you react? But yet you have been doing it to
Let
Pakistan,
Victor respond.
a country that
General
has
Bakshi, let Victor respond to that
General.
very specific point. Victor,
General,
respond.
let me
Victor, respond to the
respond.
point made by General. General Bakshi, let him
Yes,
respond to you.
one
Let Victor
point.
respond to you. Yeah,
talked
Victor, go
about
on.
Supplying nuclear weapons to Taiwan. Do you know, historically speaking, which country stopped Taiwanese nuclear program? It is the United States, because they realized that to arm Taiwan with nuclear weapons is in the worst interest of the American people. So wake up. When you talk about nuclear proliferation, be very careful. Don't bring nuclear issues
So don't
into
supply
China-Indian
nuclear weapons
border
to
issues.
Pakistan.
Pakistan is a sovereign country. Whatever problems there are between India and Pakistan need to be solved in diplomacy. China will be a force
must
promoting
exacerbate them.
diplomatic solution of whatever problems India and Pakistan will have. And that is the only way out to solve the problems
By
between
giving
India
weapons?
and Pakistan. Not through war, but through peace.
By giving weapons, my friend. Weapons? You will solve the problems between India and Pakistan?
Anyway, this,
I mean, that's amazing logic.
General, you know better than I do. China, interestingly, is a major supply of weapons of all kinds to many countries, including Saudi Arabia. Wake up. This is China's sovereign right.
And Victor,
to
you'll be happy to know.
conventional weapons
Victor,
to any
Madhav is on. You'll be
country
happy
in
to
the
know,
world.
Victor. You'll be happy to know, Victor, that India is one of the emerging major suppliers of advanced weapon systems, which we export to various countries in the world, including several in Southeast Asia, who are sick and tired of your hegemonistic designs. You must understand. The world needs a
Name one
balancing out.
country in the Southeast
Anyway,
Asia.
I also
which is
want to
hostile
tell you.
China.
No,
all the 10 ASEAN countries
well,
are on friendly terms with China.
I tell you. See, listen to me. Just calm down.
Victor,
No,
our
Madhav wants-
nuclear
Yeah,
missiles, our nuclear atom bombs, our high-performance combat aircraft, our high-performance armed nuclear naval, submarines coming all over the place here, and all that you supply to Pakistan, are they for peaceful purposes? Do you think bombs can be eaten by civilians? Do you think that aircraft can be eaten by civilians? Who is arming that country provoking that country, strengthening that country to attack India? Who is doing it?
Pakistan's nuclear program at all.
So, I'll tell you one thing.
Pakistan nuclear program and no Chinese involvement.
Program of Pakistan.
Okay.
Please go to
That's for the
Fateh
record.
Please go to
Victor and Andrew.
Please go to their
Tenzin,
reactor.
before I
There
come
are
to you.
two reactors.
Yeah,
Go there.
before
You'll
I come
find
to you,
Chinese
Tenzin.
citizens there in every reactor.
Before I come to you, Tenzin, I want to say something to Andrew. See, Andrew, why do the Sri Lankans hate you? Did you not drive the country into bankruptcy? Why do the Bangladeshis hate you? Did you not try to push them over the edge? Have people not seen how many countries got impoverished and into a debt trap because of your useless Belt and Road Initiative? You need to understand, please understand, look within, your game is up outside. And Tenzin, what he's saying to you, you must understand. You must understand today. Tenzin speaks from the soil of India because the soil of India allows him to speak. He enjoys Indian democracy. And you must know, there are millions of people like this who shall always speak out against you because they breathe the free air of the Republic of India. Always get that message. Next time you feel stifled in your house, and I know that Victor has been locked up in his house for a long time. In fact, I feel bad for Victor, Madhav, because he's locked up in his house so many times. There have been so many lockdowns. He can't go out. Somebody told me, Gaurav, that his door has been welded. He can't go out. But he's got to speak up. He can't even tell me how many people got injured in Tawang, because if he speaks within 10 seconds, he's going to be arrested. He's going to be arrested.
So
I completely commiserate with your situation.
From my trip from Hangzhou and Shanghai last night.
Right, that's all right.
Never imagined that Victor Gao, as a free person, will ever lose my personal freedom in China or anywhere else in
by
the world.
virtue of being in
I'm a
China,
free
you
man.
have nothing called personal freedom anymore. Please don't fool yourself. If you wish to, be my guest. But Tenzin wants to say something to you. Tenzin.
Mr. Andrew,
listen
to me.
You talk about the bow and road.
Well, one minute. While I fix your audio line, I allow Andrew to come in. Yes, Andrew, come in. Yes, Andrew, speak. One sec. Just wait a minute.
The border issue that we are talking about today is the McMahon Treaty border. This was signed on the 23rd of March 1914 between independent Tibet and British India. There was no China there. Today, China has not only invaded and occupied Tibet, today China is threatening India. China has no business to be there in the Himalayan border. You never had any border in the Himalayas. Only after occupying Tibet, you have come there. Number one, this is your history lesson. Keep it in your head. Now, my second lesson. Today, China is now being isolated by entire international community. Entire international community know that you have hidden the story of the COVID right in the beginning. Because of that, it ended up becoming a pandemic.
Okay. We give Andrew 30 seconds before we close. Tenzin, we got to give him 30 seconds before we close. Let him rebut you. Let him rebut you. Yeah.
Yes, and therefore.
No, let Andrew rebut you. Let's give him a word. Let's give him a word.
Today, your own people,
Tenzin.
Chinese people, are protesting against
Tenzin, we know the terrible situation in China. We all know it. But we still give him a chance to respond. After all, he's a guest on an Indian channel.
And
yes.
Communist Party of China.
Yeah, let him respond. Go on, Andrew. Andrew, I just want you to know that if you try anymore, we're going to hit back. It's the reality. We're going to hit back.
And secure borders
right?
for India.
Andrew, we're going to hit back. We're going to hit back in a firm manner and a resolute manner. Yes, please.
If I've been allowed to continue. Well, as far as the so-called debt trap is concerned, there was a recent study I think in outside China, also the independent study, showing that Sri Lanka, for example, owed more money to Western bankers and commercial lenders, a couple of times, multiple times more than they owe China. So the whole story about the debt trap is completely misrepresented. I mean, there's a very credible independent study conducted by independent research organization. So I think that
which independent organization?
Blackening of China. Now, as far as
which independent organization?
Talk about democracy. Again, there was
name the independent organization.
By a New York-based research institution called the Elderman Barometer in January this year, 2022.
And you're saying they gave the Chinese a clean sheet. It's good to see the Chinese so
countries
defensive.
In the world, the Chinese government is best trusted by its people, including its management of the pandemic. And that's the Elderman trust.
Well, I just feel that I just
see how the people.
But I just say this, Andrew, and Victor. I don't want to show you any personal disrespect, but you are a desperate nation looking for a distraction. But don't take on India. That's our only advice. Just don't even think about it. Viewers, on the other side tonight, we have this pathetic comment, disgraceful comment, and a dangerous comment that has been made by a leader of the conspiratorial Congress, the Vadra Congress, who's called for the hatya of the Prime Minister and then tried to retract his words. Till date, till this moment, as we broadcast this, no official retraction or condemnation of that from the Vadra Congress. We'll debate that when I'm back.
Presented by Amity University, ranked amongst the top 3% universities globally. Powered by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies since 1820. Century Ply, Aag se bachaye. Havels, wires that don't catch fire. MYK Laticrete Tile Adhesives, ab tile na tootega, na chutega. In association with Star Health Insurance.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
कुछ पैसे बोरो करने थे.
हेलो? लोन चाहिए तो पैसाबाजार.com पर जाइए. पैसाबाजार.com. लोन सही मिलेगा यहीं.
Get the grip of good health even after 50. Presenting now Star Health Premier Insurance Policy. Always at your doorstep.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है, पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies over 200 years.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है, पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
Get Beto's Diabetes Care Program with a free glucometer and expert advice. Give a missed call on 740 1100.
RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies over 200 years.
Chinese, Indian, Italian, all-rounder, हम भी हैं।
और तुम्हारा किचन?
किचन?
इस पे भी कभी बाउंसर आता है, कभी गूगली,